year and helps out the Bucks big time. Malcolm Brogdon will not start, but he is back and will play. Here's Coach Bud before the game.
Malika Anders, ESPN. Bud, have you thought any more about what exactly the minutes restriction Malcolm will be on tonight? And you said he'll play in kind of short spurts. What's the time restrictions on those spurts?
I'm not going to give you all the details and all the information. It will be short spurts, and he will be on a minutes restriction. And yes, we've thought about it.
Matt Velasquez, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. When it comes to Malcolm, do you try and script out times where they kind of prescribed opportunities to get him in, or do you try to mix him in kind of as the flow of the game progresses?
I would say with everybody that's kind of mapped out to play, we go into the game with a plan and hopefully able to mix a good amount of feel and gut with a plan. So have a good idea about when and where we'll try and include Malcolm, but you can't just put your head down in the sand and not watch and see what's going on too.
Eric Name, The Athletic. Let's keep it rolling. With Malcolm, are there certain pairings you want to see him with? Like, obviously, he's been in the starting lineup for much of the year. Does it matter in such a short stint, like, to try to get him in with the starters or to get him in with the second group? Like, do you think about that at all?
Well, I mean, coaches, we can overthink everything. So, to some degree, yes, I think about those things, and we obviously are going to try and do our best, not just for Malcolm, but for everybody. There's a lot of thought that goes into combinations and guys that are playing together, and Malcolm's not any different than anybody else.
Moving off of Malcolm, but staying on injuries, what's going on with Pau? Is he anywhere near close to being able to play again? And then also, DJ was on the injury list. Is he going to be available tonight, and when did that happen?
We'll go with DJ first. DJ twisted his ankle yesterday, just in a one-on-one type workout post-practice or post-recovery. And he will not be available tonight. Pau, is continuing to rehab and make progress. It is obviously we'd all hope for it to be going faster and moving along. But there really is no new update or new change to Pau. We're hopeful that, at some point he will become available and he'll be an option, but it's not imminent or anywhere near.
When players come back from injuries, there's sometimes some rust that they've got to shake off. We saw that with Nico, George, Sterling, even Marcus the other night. What kind of advice do you give Malcolm as he goes into this return?
Just go out and play. He's been a great player. Not just this year, his whole life, and I think he has a real desire to help the team and do well for the team. And as long as his mindset is there, and he's doing little things that make us better and help us win, and I think always focusing on his defense. But at the end of the day, just go play basketball and not overthink it. Take advantage of those opportunities, the minutes. Sometimes it's harder when you're not playing as long, but you just gotta push it for however long you're out there, and continue to push forward and not be too caught up in how much you're doing or not doing, and just play.
Steve Ashburn, NBA.com. Where would you put this team's chemistry relative to other teams you've had, and how much has that evolved or changed over the course of the season?
Yeah, I mean, the easy thing to say is the chemistry is really, really great. And, when you're living in the moment and you're feeling it and you're seeing it every day, you just know that this is, really high level, the kind of stuff that you want and aspire to for chemistry. And things in the past get a little bit fuzzy and everything, but I certainly been fortunate to be around a lot of teams, either as a head coach or an assistant coach, that had great chemistry. And this group, feels like it's in that, upper echelon, and if not at the top. And I think those things matter, and the caring and the getting along and the togetherness. Certainly something we take a lot of pride in cultivating, and the group just takes to it. They've been great.
In terms of like chicken or egg, I mean, what comes first, winning Gets you good chemistry because people are happy, or the chemistry?
All right, there's Coach Bud talking about chemistry as we get a chance to bring in a guy who's always got that with the attire and the big smile. Our
See, Webb, that haircut looking
who
good,
is out
baby.
there looking a lot better than the Celtics have last couple. Well, let me start with that. I mean, you know, as these two on set do with me, the onus that comes with being a leader of a team. If you're telling me if you're Kyrie, the regular season doesn't matter and the playoffs do, how can you tell me who cares when you're getting asked about your poor shooting in the series? What was your reaction to that?
I understood what he was saying. He should have taken 30 shots. I understand that after the game, but Isaiah talks about this all the time. There are bus drivers and there are passengers. And there are a lot of guys that have won championships as a passenger, and that's great. And then there are guys like myself that lost as the bus driver. Which one do you want to be? And I think right now, you have players that are understanding and learning the pressure that you play under in the playoffs when you're the main guy, when there's nobody else to blame but you. The bus driver gets too much credit for wins and gets too much credit for losses. And can you handle that? How do you bounce back after a bad shooting game? That's why I'm impressed when a guy can go 7 for 22 and come back and shoot 10 for 20 the next game, because it can be in your head. How do you handle that differently? And this is the playoffs. It's not the regular season. So to expect the same success, you're misled. And then you don't honor the success that you have in the playoffs, even if it is on par with what you did during the season, because you're looking at numbers and not at the impact. And so to me, a point guard is – to me, you can tell who a point guard is by how players like playing with him. And I think Kyrie is learning right now and navigating how to be a leader.
You know, C-Webb, when you talk about, you know, the guy who's driving the bus, you know, there's a guy on the other side in terms of Giannis who's driving the bus. And he lost the first game of the series at home. And when you compare his response to a loss and Kyrie's response to a loss, what have we seen in Giannis from a bounce back and a leadership standpoint that has separated him from everybody else in this series?
Two things, Zeke: humility by admitting that he played bad in the game one, and then two, taking responsibility. And come on, Zeke, you know you're the best small guard that ever played. I mean, Lambert was tough, Rodman was tough, Mahorn was tough. But they followed you as the leader. And when you said we need to do better, guys said, wow, Isaiah's taking it up on his back. He's being the fall guy for us. We're going to play hard for him. And I've seen Antetokounmpo do that. He said after game one, and he played hard, I did not play hard enough. I will play harder. What does your teammates have to do then? They better step up. And so to me, you know, just his leadership and his humility is refreshing. He, you know, after being a fan of basketball for so long and a fan of your era and the eras that have come before that, and of course my era and after that, but your era and the ones, he reminds me more of an old school player than maybe anyone in the NBA. Not just because he takes it inside and he plays, not just because, you know, he plays so hard, but I remember doing an All-Star game 2 years ago, and all the guys were saying, come on, Giannis, quit playing so hard. And so, I mean, he's a leader, and that's I've fallen in love with his game, Zeke.
Hey, Chris, you know, obviously Giannis has been fantastic, but George Hill, off the bench for the Bucks, has been great as well. Obviously, plus 38 plus minus, which is the highest plus minus of a Milwaukee player on the court, shooting 60% from the field, 46 from the three-point line, and really has done a fantastic job of frustrating Kyrie Irving when he's guarded him defensively using his length. Just talk about what you've seen in person from the bench overall from Milwaukee, but more in particular, George Hill and his play.
Well, let's think about it. Bud and G. Hill were in San Antonio together. And so George Hill talks about, you know, how he wanted to stay in San Antonio, how he wanted to win. Well, guess what? You got traded and they got Kawhi. So you're just going to have to live with that. And that probably was the right thing for San Antonio to do. But as far as what George Hill has been doing on the court has just been wonderful. He's a guy that you can trust. Let's remember, Brogdon has been out this series. We expect him to play tonight, but Brogdon's been out. You needed someone steady. You needed someone that kept the pace going, that could spread the floor, that's daring enough to get inside and shoot. I mean, you think about it, Bledsoe really hasn't played great this series, and it's been because of the play of George Hill and others off the bench. I think moving Ilyasova off the bench, I think Ilyasova has come in and played great. But I also think moving Nikola to the starting lineup and his shooting has helped out so much. But G. Hill, you're right, the bench for this Bucks team has been so steady that they're what's going. When Giannis goes out the game, you can depend on the bench to even increase the pace and sometimes increase the lead. You can't say enough about George Hill and the guys coming off the pine.
Webb, two things I got to say before we leave. First of all, I'm with 3 Hall of Famers right now. To anybody who knows the game, that's number 1. And 2, when we split screen your stash and G Hill's beard, I got mesmerized. I forgot where I was for a second. Between the two. Look at that. Look at that right there.
G Hill, G Hill has some. I had to take my mustache down. It was getting a little too Ron Jeremy-ish 1980 in there. I had to shave it.
Family
At
show.
least that's the jokes I got on Instagram.
This isn't Studio J. Family show.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Well, appreciate you, man. Enjoy. We'll be watching.
Guys. Love you guys.
Hey,
Love you.
congratulations
Love you.
on the Black Masters.
Black Masters,
There it
baby.
is.
Yeah. We taking it next year, Webb. We taking it next year.
We gonna get it, G Hill. Thank you, guys.
That's what everyone at Duke says this year, Webb. Meanwhile, too harsh? Is that too soon? Kawhi, he was only supposed to be a really good defensive player coming in.